Regular meeting of February 17th at 7 p.m. to order with the prayer by Councilor Pisner, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
A prayer for unity. Heavenly Father, as we gather today together, we ask for your spirit of unity to be present among each of us. Help us to put aside any personal agendas and differences and work together in harmony towards our common goal. Remind us of the words in Psalm 133:1, "Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity." Let this be our desire as we engage in discussions and make decisions that will impact others. We trust that with your guidance and grace, we can achieve a sense of unity and work together effectively. May our words be filled with love and respect for one another, and may our actions reflect the unity we all strive for. In your holy name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilor Pisner. Number 3 on the agenda, roll call, please.
Councilor Pisner. Here. Deputy Mayor Santinella.
Here.
Councilor Thomas.
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
Councilor Zanoni. Here. Councilor Allegro.
Here.
Mayor Sakala. Here. Councilor Crisati is absent. Councilor Hall.
Here.
Councilor Mangini.
Here.
Councilor Matthews.
Here.
10 members are present, 1 is absent.
Thank you. 4 on the agenda is the fire evacuation announcement. In the event of a fire or an emergency, there are 2 means of exits in the council chambers. Exit out the rear and walk a safe distance away from the building, or you can exit through the side doors on my left, the audience right, go down 1 flight of stairs, out the building into the parking lot, a safe distance away. 5 on the agenda is minutes of the preceding minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the special meeting of February 2nd, 2026?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, deletions, additions? Sensing none, all in favor? 10 in favor, none against. And can I get a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of February 2nd, 2026?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right, 10 in favor, none against. Thank you. Number 6, special guests, there are none. 7 on the agenda is public communications and petitions. Any resident of Enfield or Enfield taxpayer who wishes to address the council shall be first recognized by the chair and shall state their name and address for the record. They shall limit their remarks to 5 minutes, each person who desires the chance to speak. Those desiring the chance to speak a second time will be permitted a second round for 3 minutes. During the second public communications, which is item 14 on the agenda, as long as it's prior to 11 p.m., each person shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a whole and not one individual member, and all remarks will be to the administration through the town manager and not individual employees, please. Public members shall observe proper decorum and good conduct and shall refrain from personalities. I do have the sign-up sheet. Tom Cremona, you're the one on it, and if there are people after this, I will call them then after you. So, Mr. Cremona, come on up.
Do we have any luck? Yep. Okay. Well, 2 quick things. One, hopefully, will be a little fun, and then the other is just a couple comments. So it should pop up. It should be a video, not a video, a picture.
Your name and address first.
Okay, Tom Cremona, 19 Tyler Road. And you know what? We were just talking, Councilwoman Allegro and I were just talking about the banners that are coming from the Rotary Club. And I just wanted to show the one that came through from my family. And I just think they're wonderful. It's fantastic, and I wanted to share it so that hopefully everyone else that's watching can possibly get on board. But look at that, right? I think it's like looking in the mirror, right? So anyways, that's
And a
my
shout out to Alex for doing it.
Okay, so I don't come to as many meetings as I used to, but I do watch every one at home. So I wanted to say again, thanks for doing that. I had a couple comments about the February 2nd regular meeting, and specifically about the process that was followed in hiring our new town attorney. And to be real clear, this has nothing to do with the attorney. We don't know each other, and so it's really about process. Now, from home, here's what it appears happened. At some point, it was decided that a new candidate was or a new lawyer, attorney, was desired. And so appropriately, an RFP was issued. And there were candidates that came forward. There was a process to interview them. A lead candidate was selected and then eventually hired. So all that's great. But what it sounded like was at the February 2nd meeting, the candidate apparently said, I want a different compensation schedule, a different structure to compensation. And there was a vote here that night that approved that, and then you hired the attorney. From my own personal experience with governmental RFPs, I think that was a mistake. Because I believe if you're going to change structure of compensation during an RFP process, I think that has to be re-released to all potential candidates before you hire. And so I'm bringing that to your attention for two reasons. One, I don't believe it would have changed anything. I'm not trying to change anything in terms of the results. But from one perspective, and this is what was drilled into my head for years and years and years, by not re-releasing the RFP, from one perspective, it has a hint at favoritism, that you did it only for one person and not for everybody. So my caution to you is two things. Of course, double check me, make sure you get a second opinion, and it's kind of ironic, the opinion is probably a legal opinion. So you probably have to go to the new attorney to ask whether they agree that I'm right. But more than that, it's just a word of caution about the future, because I don't believe this just applies to when you're hiring somebody and it's that kind of an RFP. It's literally every RFP. That during the process, before you hire a person or you hire a firm to do some work, if you're changing content, I don't believe you can seal the deal until that change has been re-released. So I'd notice that. I'd be willing to answer any clarifying questions if there are any, but again, just wanted to bring that to your attention. Anything for me?
We can't,
Oh, you
but
can't.
thank you.
Okay, very good. That's all I had. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks, Tom. All right, Mr. Cremona was the only one that was signed up. Is there anyone in the audience? Sir?
Hello.
You just come on up, make sure the light is glowing, and then you can give us your name and address.
Hello, my name is James Vaughn. I live at 601 Hazard Ave, Skidco Gardens. Lifelong resident of Enfield, except for the 4 years I lived in New Britain when I was married. I'm here for two reasons. I'm here today for two reasons. One, for the happy lady with a hole in her throat. She moved in the spring of 2024 to Skidco Gardens, apartment 31, before the fall. She told me she was cancer-free at this point. Before the fall, she passed away. The apartment management was remodeling that apartment, and I witnessed the bathroom floor coming out of there completely moldy, and they put down a new floor. I was befriended the carpenter's son, gave him soda, some candy. It was around Halloween of 2024. Sorry, this is difficult. Now I'm just going to show some photos, time-stamped, of our apartment, the subfloor looking up. Thank you. That one was time-stamped April 17th, 2023, the sheetrock. That one's time-stamped April 17th, 2023. The floor was removed, the ceiling was removed from the basement underneath my bathroom, and my wife has emphysema, COPD. She uses an oxygen generator at night to sleep. May 4th, the floor is exposed. The toilet was set by a licensed plumber. July 2nd, 2024. The landlord was present, witnessed the mold underneath the toilet flange. Let me tell you, I used to be a P2 licensed plumber. The gentleman who set the toilet is a P1. He should know the laws and the rules. You set a toilet down on a punky, moldy, rotted floor, you have 24 to 48 hours to come back. I don't blame the plumber. The manager, the plumber, he even tried to explain to him, hey, we got to come back. Oh, we'll come back, we'll come back. Well, ever since, I'm going to show you this photo now. August 14th, I lost these photos in my phone because I'm not good with technology. They just recently were found because of some other problem we were having at this apartment. I was taking pictures. My wife said, check the gallery. And I did, and I found these photos. The only reason I have this photo is because I actually sent it to the landlord the day they enclosed this, the day that was covered. August 14th, 2024. I actually sent this in a text to my landlord. His name is William Bullock, owner, landlord, manager, I don't know. This is very stressful for me, very stressful. Since this date of August 14th, 3.5 months later, my wife's health has been going downhill and I couldn't connect the dots. And I believe it is because sewer gas is coming up into our apartment. I have spoke with our health department here in town. I just had his card, okay. And our building inspector, Richard, Nieves. He called me this morning. I left a message for him, said that Bill had a mold inspector there for the basement, which I don't understand how our town could allow a landlord to pick his own inspector and then send the report to our town. That's baffling me right there. So Richard called and said, oh yeah, we got to wait to get the report from the mold inspector Bill hired. I'm like, cool. I asked him this morning, is it safe for us to be in our apartment? He's like, yes, thank you. Okay. I also have been in contact with Richard S. Stedward, the chief building official. I asked him, if he could break into that ceiling and see if that mold was ever properly abated, which it wasn't because my toilet's bolted to the rotted subfloor to this day. It was not abated. He said he needed evidence to get a warrant because the landlord has constitutional rights. Hey, cool, I get it. I sent him all this. I haven't heard back from him. This is how my toilet sits since it was a different lower toilet design, it's a smaller, not oval as much. That's why the floor is exposed underneath the sticky tile, the inexpensive, Home Depot sticky stuff. So I've actually contacted, all this is going on before even that stuff happened in Rocky Hill. I found out what happened at that other apartment in Rocky Hill when I actually called an attorney and his paralegal was kicked out of her house at the Concierge Apartments.
Mr. Vaughn, I'm just going to stop you for 1 second. Your time is up.
Okay,
But
sorry.
Don't stay right there because if nobody else needs to speak for the first time, then you have 3 more minutes for your second round.
Thank you.
Okay, so just stay right there. Is anyone else in the audience looking to speak for the first time? Okay. For the second time, Mr. Vaughn, you have 3 minutes, okay?
Thank you. Okay, so I went to the housing court. Julia Walterstorff told me I should talk to our town council or talk to our mayor, so I figured, hey, cool, there's a meeting tonight. I'm going to come and let it out. Okay, so I only got 3 minutes left, so I'm going to just show photos. My landlord told me yesterday I'm no longer allowed to go into my basement to my storage unit. I haven't been in there since he told me that yesterday. I took these photos 2 days ago, time-stamped. This one, February 15th. This is an elderly complex. A lot of people are afraid to speak up. February 15th. Same date. These are disabled, low-income people living on, I forget what you call it now. My mind is blown. Disability and, when the government assistance, huh? No, not Social Security, when you get housing assistance. Yes, there you go. And yesterday, a woman, Teresa, that's lived there probably 15, 20 years, was taken away in an ambulance. She told me a couple of weeks ago she has mold in her apartment. Whenever Section 8 comes by to inspect her apartment, Bill puts paint over everything. Oh, this one really blew my mind. You know, my wife's disabled. Her health is going downhill because I believe in the condition of this place. He is violating 47A-7 of the codes. And this last photo, I don't know if this happened in 86, 87. Like I said, I had an S2 and a P2 license. I believe this pipe that is outside my building, right where you go down into the basement, may be attached to the sewer system. It's a drainage pipe, and there was a bunch of methane coming out of it like on the 10th, 11th, or 13th. When I went outside, I almost fell over. I don't think this is piped correctly. Thank you. My name is James Vaughn. Have a nice day. Please help the people in that apartment. I can afford just to bail and run away, but they can't.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn.
Have a nice night. Sorry about the emotions.
No, that's okay. Anyone else for the second time? Going once? All right, public communications is closed. 8 on the agenda is counselor communications. Any counselor looking to speak? Counselor Mangini.
Thank you. February 28th, we have trivia. Actually, it's a benefit for first readers. It's going to be held in Mount Carmel, as it has been past couple of years, from starting at 6 until whenever. And it's a lot of fun. They are selling tables of 10, but you can buy individual tickets. But it's really a very good benefit for helping the kids. They buy books and they buy materials for education. And I also would like to tag along with Mr. Cremona. Thank you for bringing the vet banner up. I bought one for my father. He was a Marine in the Korean War. And I saw the proof, and it looks really, really good. I can't wait until they are displayed in the spring. It's going to be really nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Pisner.
So I, too, have my two manners, my dad and my uncle. And I actually ran into Mike Cotner today at the post office, and he said they reached 120. So he's like, we're taking a pause. We have to make sure we have enough polls. I'm looking at Aaron. I do have a question, though, to our mayor. For the last two meetings, Councilor Hall and myself and Councilor Ungary have brought up Daniel DeGray to be on our BAA. And we were hoping to see his name on our agenda tonight, and it's not. I mean, Dan has done a great job on our Board of Assessment Appeals. He works harmoniously with the other two current commissioners on there. And, you know, we're always looking for good qualified people, and we have somebody who's qualified. And this is a very particular board. You have to know what you're doing. We are going to start getting these appeals in soon, and so my question is there a reason why he has still not been put on this agenda?
Thank you. Counselor Hall.
Thank you. I've actually got quite a number of questions through the mayor, probably to Steve on this one because they're all related somewhat to what Mr. Cremona brought up. I've had quite a few conversations with various residents regarding the RFP process and how it transpired and how it actually followed through. So I'm going to start with my questions, and hopefully we can get some answers on the actual process a little bit. So my first one would be, when we know that the RFP was put out, but Steve, can you give us a date on when that happened? When did the RFP go out? Was it right after the election? Was it before the first meeting? When did that happen?
That's a good question. That's a good question, and it's easily recordable because I could go back to my emails and find it. I just don't know from memory when it was, so can I take that?
Yeah.
Get
Yep.
The date the RFP went out to the public?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, the assistant purchasing agent would have sent it to the current or whatever, so I can,
So that's one of my questions, is where did it go? Where was it posted? How long was it posted for?
Okay.
Those are all questions that I have here.
I can get all that.
Then the next one was, who authorized the terms of the RFP, when and where it went out? So who authorized what went in the RFP?
I took the last RFP, we did this 4 years ago. I just changed the dates. The authorization was from the prior council. Believe it or not, I think I used the same parameters. And
So
I didn't
the-
change those parameters.
So you're referring to the previous council
Correct.
voted on a previous RFP,
Correct.
but this council did not vote
What was it,
on an
April 24th?
RFP.
Yeah, it was in 2024. Yeah, I didn't change, all I did was change the dates. And yeah, I think it was all the dates, not the content.
Okay. So it wasn't, this council didn't vote on it. It was never brought to this
I'm
council
not even sure if the
for a
last
vote on
council
our-
voted on it, to be honest with you.
The
Did we?
last council did vote on it.
Okay, then
Yes.
I was going off of that
That was-
authorization then.
For the last town attorney, not for this one.
Yeah.
Just to be perfectly clear, it was the previous town attorney that RFP was for that got voted on.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if you're asking or telling me.
No, so
okay.
this council didn't vote on an RFP before
That's
it went
correct.
out.
There's no,
No.
I believe there's no record of
No,
council
it didn't.
voting.
It didn't go. Yes. Okay. And then, was the RFP ever submitted to our town attorney's office, like to Mark or somebody, to review before it was posted?
I'd have to go back and check my emails. I don't recall.
Okay. Okay. So we don't know if it went out to our town attorney to review before the RFP
Only
was.
because I don't know if purchasing would have sent it out. I have to go back and look. I forward a lot of stuff all the time. I may not have if it had the same content other than the dates from the prior one, but
Okay.
I just don't. I don't want to lie and say it did.
Yeah.
I'd rather go back and check my emails.
Okay. Okay. Were any of the negotiations that took place, did any negotiations take place with any of the applicants before there was a vote taken on the town attorney?
No. You mean like meeting
Like-
with someone?
Outside of before the vote was actually taken?
Not to my knowledge. As far as the terms of start date and stuff, or
The terms of the actual contracts?
no?
No.
The terms of the contract spoke in the RFP. So
Okay.
there was no.
So that goes to my next question. When was the decision, when did the decision take place to change the terms of the actual RFP? When was the decision and discussion made or had with the attorney's offices that they would not accept what was in the RFP? When did all that take place?
I'm not sure I follow you. The attorney's office did not accept the terms of the RFP?
Yeah, so something that Counselor Zanoni said at the last meeting, when the meeting with Counselor Matthews and Counselor Zanoni took place,
and Matt and
and
myself,
they
yeah.
brought up a retainer. And the comment was made that we understood that Rose Keller would not accept the way the RFP was written. I think those were the exact words. That,
Okay. Well, I was in that meeting. It was 4 of us, the town manager, myself. But that meeting to me was to provide guidance to them of how to interpret the RFP and what did certain things mean. I didn't understand it the way you're explaining it to me now. Like someone negotiated with the lawyer and said this was not acceptable. That's not what I understood.
So something that was said on the council floor by Counselor Zanoni was that it was understood when we brought up doing a cap on the retainer and locking the retainer at a certain number that Rose Keller's attorney's office would not accept that, and that this is why we were discussing an hourly fee, right? So to Mr. Carbona's point, when you put out terms that are different than what's in the RFP, you are eliminating a lot of other possibilities.
Oh, I understand.
What I'm trying to get to and find out when that took place, when was the decision made?
So in the response to the RFP, Rose Keller put in that they were going to be charging hourly. So that's where that came from. I believe in one of the interview groups, that was also discussed. They would be hourly.
Okay, so my question is, when we were discussing an hourly wage, why were we not complying with what we put out in the RFP?
So I don't believe, and again, we'll check the language to be sure on this, but the RFP did not say that it had to be a retainer. What it did was early, the first page, it said that the compensation was going to be in the range of 75 to 100, 110, I can't remember, 110. And then later, I think it said that it asked for the respondents to supply what their method, their fee was going to be. Again, I don't have it in front of me, so I can't quote it exactly, and we'll get it exactly. But I don't believe that RFP, which again was the same RFP that was done the last time the council went out, and the same time before that. And I believe I looked when the attorney Tallberg was appointed. I think it was the same one. But I think it just asked for, what they were looking for in terms of the compensation. And in this particular case, Rose Keller, in theirs, Cindy, had put that it was going to be based on an hourly fee schedule, not a retainer. So there was no negotiation related to, we want a retainer, don't want a retainer. There was clarifications, because what we wanted to find out was, if they're going to be doing hourly charges, what did that encompass? Because, one of the concerns I would have is if they charged, for instance, travel time. That would be a lot different than if they didn't charge travel time. So we needed to go, and I think that was asked in the group I was in, I believe, about the travel time. It was either asked or answered before it was asked. I can't remember how that was done, but I believe it was discussed in the group that I was in.
But in the RFP, Matt, there was a range that was given.
75 to
110 as a cap.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is there was a decision made at some point that those RFP terms weren't important anymore, and that we should throw that aside and accept whatever this attorney that was chosen by this council wanted for terms. So I guess going back to what was said on the floor, again, when, and maybe, I mean, maybe Zach has an opinion on what he heard or why it came out the way it was said, but when we were talking about doing a hard stop cap of that, ours was 85,000, that 110 that was put in place is not a hard stop. So the RFP went out in that window of money, and then it went out the window. So to Mr. Cremona's point, that changed. The RFP changed with what the council ultimately accepted. So my questions just go to more of, were there meetings? Was there discussion with people that took place outside of the council? That's one of my main questions and concerns.
Well, again,
So-
I want to say that we had asked clarifying questions of Cindy's group just to make sure we understood what it was they were proposing. Because again, we knew that there would be questions, and we wanted to make sure we understood it. There was never a negotiation, that you shouldn't do this, or will you do this, or it was more, what do you mean when you say this? So
Right.
we can understand that. But let me just also say that with any of the town attorneys, since Kevin Deneen, even though there was a retainer for general
Right.
services, there was never a cap. Because there were carve-outs that, if, I think Kevin Deneen's had, if there was more cases that were 30 hours or more, special cases, I think if they went to different levels of court or administrative courts, whatever.
Litigation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
so
is
there was,
understood.
there was never going to be a cap, and that kind of carried through, I know Tallberg's
That's for all
letter
the
was-
town attorneys, though,
Yeah,
Matt.
exactly, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. The line item
General-
in the budget, this is what we pay our town attorney, period. So that's always been a line item, full stop. So that's where I'm going with this. So those are, if, the questions, if you can get back to me, Steve, with all the notes you took.
I'll give you all the logistics. I can't speak on what Zach meant, but fortunately, he's here to help explain what he meant when he made a comment that you're referring to. That would help me.
Yeah.
'cause I can't speak for him, though.
Yep. All right, thank you. If you can get back to us, though, on the others. Thanks, Steve.
All done, Carol? Yeah. Okay. Any other counselor communications? Counselor Zanoni.
Thank you. So the precipitous of my comments that were what was amicable to the town attorney was noted by my interpretation of what was said of the town manager during the executive session. So it was not individual conversations that I think myself or any other counselor had with the prospective town attorney applicants. That was my interpretation of what was discussed during executive session by the town manager and what would be an acceptable contract for the prospective town attorney that was listed. That just was my interpretation of it. It was during executive session, so I think that's the extent that I can go into detail about that, but that's just how I interpreted the comments from the town manager.
Anything else, Zach? All right. Any other counselor communications? Quick?
Quick. Through the mayor to Matt. Last council meeting, I asked you about potholes in Powder Hollow. It's gotten like 5 million times worse since the last meeting. There's huge holes. So can you email me tomorrow when Public Works is going to be out there to take care of that? Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Santinella.
Thank you. Through the mayor to the town manager. So Mr. Vaughn seems to have some pretty significant issues in his apartment building, and those pictures from what I could see from here were pretty disturbing. So what options do we have to help him and the residents of that building. I don't know if you want to discuss them, but I mean, those pictures did not look very livable, habitable. So could you please just get back to me tomorrow or as soon as possible with what we can do to help the people that are living in that ridiculous situation? That would be appreciated.
Yep.
Second, March 7th is the July 4th Committee's annual gala to raise money for the 4th of July celebration. It is usually a wonderful event. I believe it is at the Elks Club this year. You can get tickets online. It's all over Facebook, so you should be able to find it easily. And if not, please reach out. I'm happy to give you a link or directions to where you can get information to attend that event. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Before we go to the town manager's report, I just have one or two things. Number one, Matt, I don't know for Mr. Vaughn what our role as a council, if anything, but if you can sort of take point and figure out if between you and maybe the town attorney's office, if there's anything that we have a role in, and maybe just have some conversations with Mr. Vaughn. Mr. Cremona, I actually really appreciate your feedback. I appreciate you coming and talking about the town attorney and your perspective. It's always good to hear other perspectives because up here we have sort of more information or sometimes different information, so I appreciate that feedback. And ironically, I appreciate that you're here tonight because I have some things to say about how it went down, because I do think that there's misinformation being spread, and I think that there's some misunderstandings, intentional on some parts of people and some completely unintentional because people just don't know how things work. So again, I appreciate you bringing that up. First and foremost, Councilor Hall, I know you had a lot of these questions or a lot of questions. I would encourage, if you actually wanted the answers, that you give them to the town manager's office ahead of time so they can have those answers for you in the information instead of asking them on the council floor. I mean, you've had probably this information for quite some time, I know. Unfortunately, the only discussions before the interviews that took place was you and I believe a couple other councilors indicating on the dais that you would support no one but our current town attorney at that point, Tom Tyler. So I don't know that there is any additional discussions on that. Regarding how this went down, so there's a town charter. We're bound by the town charter. In the town charter, in section 1, town attorney, it says, the council shall, by majority vote at a meeting held by the second Monday in December following the council elections, appoint a town attorney to serve a term of 2 years from the date of their appointment, January 1st. Now, there's also some requirements that that person has to meet. So this is a 2-year appointment, every 2 years, and it coincides with the election because a new council comes in. They have the authority, should they choose, to appoint a new town attorney. Now, interestingly enough, there was an appointment of an interim town attorney with this last council. Ironically, then Tom Tyler was put up for town attorney and never got appointed to be our town attorney. He never received the requisite votes of 6 in order to be appointed town attorney. So that actually never happened. So he's been our interim town attorney, if you will. So this new council is within their right and their authority under the town charter to go out for an RFP to elect, or I'm sorry, to appoint a new town attorney, to hire one. So we decided to do an RFP. Now, that is a request for proposal. We did that within the confines and the normal course of business that we would normally do. And that yielded 3 responses. We interviewed all 3 responses. And all 11 of us, including Councilor Crissati, who is not here tonight, all 11 of us sat through these interviews. We were able to ask questions. Fee schedules and compensation were brought up in these interviews, and it was a part of their responses to our RFP as well. So we all had the information. None of it was backroom or nefarious in any way, shape, or form, because it was in their response to our proposal. So we all interviewed 3, and we picked what the best and most qualified town attorney. Now, I understand not everybody's going to agree with it. I understand not everybody's going to like it, but that is the process that we went to. And I don't think people necessarily have a problem with the process. I think some people may misunderstand it. I think some people don't like the result, which is perfectly within their right to not enjoy the result that was brought out. But I do want to take this time because I think it's very important to tell and introduce properly our new town attorney, because I don't really think that that's happened. So, Attorney Cieslak, who is here with us tonight, is a partner at Rose Keller, a firm that's considered a lead in the field of public and sector law. Partners collectively have over 75 years of experience representing municipalities. Attorney Cieslak advises municipalities and public agencies in a variety of legal matters, including litigation, administrative processes, declaratory rulings, public meetings, freedom of information requirements, contracts, interpretations, statutory and regulatory interpretations, labor negotiations, personnel matters, pensions, civil rights, municipal laws. She litigates in every court that you can imagine, right? So she litigates in Connecticut Superior Court, Appellate Court, Supreme Courts, United States District Court, Second Circuit Court of Appeals, and a number of other state and federal agencies. Currently, she serves as special and labor counsel for 4 other Connecticut municipalities and as general counsel for Connecticut Housing Authority, general counsel for the State Employees Retirement Commission, and litigation counsel for the Connecticut Municipal Employees Retirement System. She's been recognized by Best Lawyers, awarded Professional Excellence Awards, New Leaders in the Connecticut Law Tribune. In 2024, she received the American Bar Association's On the Rise Top 40 Young Lawyers Award. So her accolades go on and on and on. So just by reading this, she is more than qualified, and I think this town is extremely lucky to have had her firm respond to the RFP. So I hope that clears up some of it. Again, I very much appreciate the feedback because we as counselors don't always see things through the lenses of the community who's watching us. So I do very much appreciate that. So that is all I had for tonight, and we are on to number 9, Town Manager Report and Communications Map.
Good evening. That pause was because I was clearing my throat. I'm going to apologize up front. For some reason, my voice is evading me right now, so I'll have to limp through this. As part of my town manager's report tonight, I wanted to take a few minutes to reflect on where we are as a community and where we're headed. The start of the annual budget process is always a good moment to step back, take stock, and think about the bigger picture. But before I get there, because any good story has a beginning, I want to share something that has shaped how I view public service. More than 2,000 years ago, young men in Athens would stand before their community and recite the Athenian oath, promising to defend their city, uphold its laws, and leave it not smaller but greater than they found it. That idea has always resonated with me throughout my 30-some years of municipal management. For me, it captures what leadership really is, stewardship. We're given responsibility for something bigger than ourselves, for our community, its people, and its future. So as I share this report tonight, I'm guided by the simple idea, our job is to lead Enfield stronger than we found it. That mindset shapes how I think about decisions, long-term planning, and how we serve this town. My goal is to help Enfield grow and adapt in thoughtful, disciplined way, with honesty, with responsibility, and with a clear eye on the future. So with that grounding, let me walk through some of the major developments, challenges, and opportunities in front of us. And hopefully this works. And North River Street, let's start with progress. because there has been a lot of progress in the last 12 months, a little bit before that as well. Phase 1 of the North River Street apartments, I think it's, I can't remember, Enfield Station, I think is what they're calling that, has been rezoned. That means new housing, new private investment, and new tax base growth in an area that truly needed a push forward. It's not going to be the final chapter, but it's a meaningful movement. And we are expecting sometime later this year, construction will be starting. And probably you'll see some trees being cut down before that because we don't want any bats to be roosting there and delay that project. Who would have thought? You know, I think when I first came here, it was these little beetles that the town was talking about, and now it's bats. Who knows what it'll be next? You also might have heard about the Enfield Square redevelopment. It has now made it through several parts of the land use process. Not all the way, but we're now have a framework for the long-term reinvestment in the property, and we're waiting for the developer to close on the site. You know, the next step in the rezoning is the master plan, and once that's complete, closing, then construction. And we've been told a number of different things in terms of what that time frame will be. We're hopeful it's going to be sometime this year, maybe not as aggressive as what they've told us, but sometime this year. And this is a very large project for the town. It's a type of project that really will reposition us. And there's a couple of those projects that we'll talk about that repositions the town of Enfield from where we have been to where we should be. We've also continued implementing Roads 2021. Now, I know road work is disruptive and not exactly everyone's favorite construction season, but deferred maintenance is just debt that costs more later. Enfield has always faced road issues head-on rather than kicking them down the road, except for Powder Hollow. For some reason, we haven't tackled that one yet. No. Yes. And you know, I think that within a day of you letting me know that, I had driven that, and the next day I think they were out there and put some down. But again, this time of the year, we're going to see potholes blooming all over the place, especially with warmer weather coming. We've also stayed focused on sewer pump station upgrades. These aren't the kinds of project people talk about, and that's exactly how it should be. If the sewer system becomes a daily topic of conversation, something's gone wrong. Well, let me just say, it may not be in the public a daily topic, but I know in Public Works and with me, it is a rather daily topic because of just the incredible need we have throughout the entire system. Which, you know, you can look at this picture and you can see two different things. You can see the wear, you know, the neglect and all that, but, you know, that thing still runs for the most part. And I think that is also an important thing to be thinking about, is that we have to maintain these facilities. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Something else that you know, may not seem like a large thing, but to me, I think is a huge thing, and that is the TIF budget. You know, earlier in 2025, Council adopted a TIF budget. Now, there's been money spent out of the TIF budget. There's been agreements spent out of TIF money, but there really wasn't a TIF budget. And it's something that, you know, speaks to the greater issue that we'll get to here in a few minutes, that, you know, we have to have a plan. And a budget's a plan. And when you don't have a plan, in this case a budget, you know, you're just kind of wandering all over the place. And to me, having the TIF budget adopted and starting to spend money out of that for the betterment of the TIF district is an incredible thing. And it's an accomplishment that I wanted to, you know, draw your attention to, because this is what is going to support the redevelopment in the TIF district. Growth helping to pay for growth, a smart long-term fiscal practice. And these aren't abstract ideas, they're practical steps towards stability. And they are only part of a broader set of initiatives that are pushing Enfield forward. And I didn't want to get because there was a number of others, but knowing that you probably didn't want to hear me rattle on all night, did not put those in there. So, but there are a lot of things that as a community we can and should be celebrating that is moving our town forward. So this year we need to build on that momentum. And Matt has to hit that. The train station project, along with the surrounding infrastructure, is scheduled to move forward. Completion is expected in 2029. This isn't just about trains or transportation. Again, it's about positioning Enfield in the regional economy for decades to come. This is something that I know when I first arrived in 2006 was a top priority. When I left in 2015, what we were being told was this could become a reality somewhere after 2040. And between 2015 and 2025, when I came back, there's been a lot of hard work by people here in Enfield to change from 2040 to 2029. And again, that's something that is a major accomplishment that you all should be proud of. The people, the councils, the staff, the previous town managers all had a piece in moving up those 10 years. And you might say, ooh, 10 years. But the problem in the state of Connecticut, the problem with funding for railroad projects is that it gets lost. And that's what happened when I was here. We went from, I think, 2018 all the way to 2040. And so being able to dial that back is an incredible accomplishment for the town of Enfield. And one that, again, is going to set the future of the town moving forward. I want to talk about a dedicated group of residents that spent the last year studying the future of our elementary schools. They've taken a hard look at aging buildings that cost more to repair each year than we can reasonably sustain. Their work has led to a bold plan to modernize both our schools and the learning environments inside them. Later this fall, still to be decided, voters will be asked to consider this plan. Our responsibility is to provide clear, honest information about this plan. And I think they've taken a number of steps to get the message out of what they're talking about and what this will cost to achieve. Schools facility age whether we plan for it or not. The question is whether we want to modernize intentionally or repair things piecemeal. And that truly is what our choice is. Because any one of these elementary schools, if you've had the ability to go through them, are large money pits waiting for us to spend money. And we are seeing that on a daily basis, and we're also seeing on a daily basis the money that we're not putting into these. And so this will be a very large issue for us moving forward. And where things aren't all, that sometimes serious, we are going to be celebrating America's 250th birthday this year. And as our part, we have a number of programs planned and still in the planning stages. A few of them are up here. We recently, back in January, you may have attended the Veterans Recognition Ceremony, which was a great event. And more still to come in April, July, November. And again, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some other ones sprinkled through there. I know Aaron, who's sitting out in the audience, Markovich, is very excited about this. He really loves history. And he tells, history and planetariums. Yes, he loves both. So each of these initiatives I just spoke about moves us forward. Each comes with opportunity and responsibility. Now I want to talk about the tougher work, challenges that don't have quick answers. And the first one is redevelopment in Thompsonville. It's one of the biggest opportunities we have, but also one of the hardest. There's no single project that will turn it around overnight. If there were, it would have already been done. Real progress in Thompsonville is going to take sustained investment in streets, utilities, sidewalks, and lighting, fair and consistent code enforcement, cooperation with property owners who want to reinvest, and patience, because real development isn't quick or even flashy. And above all, it'll take persistence. Now, I want to stop for a second. So that first picture on the top is Thompsonville circa mid-70s, I believe. And I cannot remember the gentleman now's name. I wrote it down, and I didn't write it onto this that I have in front of me. But he had done a number of the different pictures, and I was able to get this actually from a Patch article a number of years ago. But that's what Enfield looked like after urban renewal. And I bring that up because the town of Enfield has been trying to redevelop Thompsonville since the mid to late 60s. And the first attempt was to get rid of everything. And you know, as you drive around, interesting enough, as you drive around Connecticut and you go to some of the smaller towns in Connecticut, you see what is left of, in those more urbanized smaller towns, what is left of their downtowns. And they've been able to use those for revitalization without having to spend the money to revitalize. Pardon me? Exactly, that's the one I was thinking of. and it's kind of sad that you know, we've been chasing this since the mid-70s, but I'm optimistic. I feel good where we're at, that we're starting to move forward again. Right now, and here's the important piece of redevelopment. Right now, differences in property condition lead directly to differences in grand list value. And when one part of town underperforms, taxes shift to other parts. That's not fair, and it's not sustainable. If we want to stabilize taxes across our community, we have to raise property values where they are lagging. Redevelopment in Thompsonville is essential to that. When properties improve, assessments stabilize. When private investment increases, the tax base grows. When vacancy goes down and code compliance strengthens, confidence rises for residents, businesses, and investors. This is a long-term fiscal strategy, not a one-year project. It takes commitment and consistency over time. Now, I want to draw your attention to this, and I apologize, it's kind of small, both on the screen and on your handout that I gave to you. But I want to show you, if you look all the way to the right, fiscal year 2017. So this is the Thompsonville Fire District. And, you know, Thompsonville Fire District covers Thompsonville as well as the mall area, a portion of the mall area, right? And you can see that the taxable grand value list back in fiscal year 2017, that grand list, was almost $575 million. In the most recent taxable grand list, that is risen, and I can't even read that myself here, 681 million and change. Now, I did the math already for you. That's about 18% over that time period. Less than 2% a year. It's like one something. So you know what? I looked at our grand list, the town's grand list. You know, that same time period, the grand list grew 30%, a little bit over 3% a year. Now, what that tells us is that all the other parts of the town were going further ahead than what Thompsonville. And that's to my point about why it's important for us to redevelop that area, because it's lagging behind. And because of that, someone out in the presidential neighborhoods who, you know, would see their property over that period of time going up potentially 30%, where someone in Thompsonville only saw it go up 18%. And so that shifts the tax burden to those that are growing faster. And so when people ask, why do we spend so much time trying to redevelop Thompsonville? You know, one, because it's an important thing to do. Secondly, it's because we want to have a fair and equitable distribution of that tax burden across this town. And whether it's commercial, residential, in Thompsonville, in Skidco, in Southwood Acres, wherever. We need it to be a across-the-board burden sharing that doesn't, affect one a lot more than the others. And so I think this is a very important thing to understand and talk about when people ask you why we need to do it. And there is a great opportunity there. When you see, again, only an 18% growth, a small growth, that means the properties are primed for redevelopment, and we need to take advantage of that. And I think we've started with a number of different projects. And I wish that was really our only problem. I'd love to spend all my time just working on that one. Unfortunately, not necessarily the case. I also want to talk about the Enfield Annex, former Fermi High School. It's a valuable asset, and like many former school buildings, it's being used in a lot of different ways. Today, it houses our recreation department, some police training activities, several nonprofit storage areas, underutilized storage space, and a few public school programs. And I think if you'd ask anybody back in 2014, when we were moving forward with the consolidation, if that was the future of Fermi High School, I don't think anybody would have liked that. I know some of you were here, so I know for a fact you wouldn't have liked that. The outdoor fields, the gym, and the pool continue to see strong demand, and those are amenities we absolutely want to keep. But the truth is, beyond those well-used areas, much of the building is operating without a long-term plan. We know the pool and the gym matter. We know the fields matter. What we haven't decided is what the rest of the facility should become, or what role it should play in the community over the next decade. The annex offers opportunity, but it also comes with cost. Large, aging buildings don't get cheaper to maintain over time. So we need to determine clearly and honestly what the future of that building should be. Do we reinvest in it? Do we rethink its use? Do we consolidate, repurpose, or reimagine parts of it? Those are decisions we can't afford to delay, and delaying won't make them easier. This year, we need to begin that conversation openly, thoughtfully, and with an eye towards long-term sustainability. The annex can be an asset, but only if we define its purpose and plan its future. And so get ready for the rest of this year. We're going to be talking about the annex. The public safety complex is another major priority. The plan, as I understand it, includes expanding the police department, building a dedicated EMS station, and adding modern training space for local, regional, and statewide teams. These investments strengthen our core services and prepare us for the future. And before I make the next statement, I want to say that I was going to put up here a picture of our ambulances. And I'm pretty sure you probably already know what I'm going to be saying when I say that. Because if you've seen any of our ambulances the last month or so, you'd understand the importance of having space for them to put their ambulances in. It drives up our cost, it creates unsafe conditions, and it makes the job more difficult for people that are going out on a daily basis to do the best work they can for our community. And this is something that we need, again, to try and see if we can get the money from the state. But if we can't get the money from the state, we're going to have that conversation about what we're going to do, because keeping it the way it is not sustainable, and it's not the best way to go about running that service. And that leads to the most important structural issue we face. We need a true multi-year financial plan. Now, this kind of cuts both ways with me, because I was here 10 years ago, and I kind of see the results of my work from 10 years ago. I get to see that now. I never was able to do that for my life. Hopefully everything went well, but I get to actually be a part of what we need to do next. And this, I think, is important. We need a real plan. If we want predictable taxes, if we want stable reserves, if we want to maintain infrastructure, if we want reliable services, we have to have a plan that goes beyond one fiscal year. every year, we just look at 1 year. We don't think about budgeting over a period of years. And it's unfortunately not something that, is it getting hot in here?
No, I'm freezing.
Oh. Oh. Well, it's kind of warm for me, so. So we have to plan beyond one fiscal year. To begin with, we have to understand the role of debt in our financial picture. Debt isn't a bad thing. It's a tool. It allows us to build schools, repair roads, upgrade facilities, and take on projects that would be impossible to fund in a single budget year. But like any tool, it has to be used wisely. Right now, we are carrying debt that reflects choices of many years: school construction, road improvements, public facilities, and long-term infrastructure. As some of that debt rolls off, we have opportunities, but we also face significant capital needs ahead of us. Buildings that require real investment, vehicles and equipment that cannot be stretched forever, and infrastructure that must be maintained before it becomes more expensive to fix. So the question isn't simply how much debt do we have, it's whether we are managing it strategically. We need a clear, more disciplined, multi-year approach to capital planning, deciding what projects are essential, what timing makes sense, and how we maintain our debt levels in a way that keeps Enfield financially stable. That means understanding our capacity, prioritizing needs over wants, and making sure that every dollar we borrow produces a long-term value. Good debt strengthens a community. Unplanned debt weakens it. Our responsibility now is to make sure the debt we take on in the future is aligned with a clear plan, a plan that protects our credit rating, maintains predictable tax levels, and invests in the things that truly matter for Enfield's future. And I put up this particular slide for you to think about. And so it goes back to 2015. And at that point in time, our outstanding debt was $42.9 million. It was primarily at that point in time general obligation bonds, if I'm not mistaken. Fast forward to 2024, and so this comes, you can see, from our fiscal year 2024 audit. So that's why I chose this particular year. So in 2024, as of June 30th, our outstanding debt was at $122 million. Now, it's not all general obligation. I think 94 million of that 122 is general obligation, which means that we pledged our full faith and credit to the properties that are owned here in Enfield, which means taxpayers would pay it. There's also, I think, 20 million, which is through the Clean Water Fund, so that's more or less a loan, but again, outstanding debt. And I think there was a premium in there as well that had to be paid. So 122. So you can see that over time, our debt had more 2.5 times, doubled where we were at. And we're talking about a lot more.
Can I ask just a question?
Yeah.
So as a percentage of the budget, in terms of a percentage of our debt obligation from 2015 to where we are now in 2024, because our budget was obviously a lot lower in 2015.
Yep.
Do you have a sense of what our debt payment was as a percentage of the budget then versus where it is now?
Yeah, in round numbers, I want to say we're making debt payments around $6 to $7 million a year. In fiscal year, this fiscal year, I think that debt payment is right around 12 million. Not including loans or leases.
So again, I know the real number, but
I'm
as a
working
percentage,
backward.
yeah, but as a percentage of the budget was not half the size in 2015.
Yeah, it was about 100 and the general fund, I think, back in 2015 was like 156 million.
So our principal and interest payment, so there's the debt that we retire, but then there's the interest on it as well. From what I read, is closer to $13 million when you add the interest in, right? So $13 million a year comes off before we can do absolutely anything else as a percentage of our budget, significantly higher than where we were back in 2015.
Yeah.
Because we've changed the mix and the use of how we have issued new debt and for various purposes.
Yeah, I think, to put it into context, leading up to 2015, most of our debt was going towards roads, right? That primarily was road projects. Starting in 2015, we had the high school. Then later we had JFK. Plus we had roads. Plus, we added the sewer plant, which was the loan, which great number is a 2% loan. It was great getting it. It's a lot better than having to pay 100%. But again, all of those add up. Because long-term financial stability isn't just about borrowing wisely, it's about maintaining what we already have. That means keeping buildings in good shape so small issues don't turn into big emergencies. It means sticking to a responsible vehicle replacement plan, not hoping a vehicle makes it just one more winter. It means continuing to reinvest in the sanitary sewer system because underground infrastructure doesn't warn us before it fails. It means enforcing codes consistently because strong neighborhoods depend on it. And it means defining what level of service we want and then aligning our staffing and spending to match. Right-sizing services isn't about lowering expectations, it's about making sure expectations match our resources. That's how we get long-term stability. Stability means fewer surprises. It means fewer emergency appropriation. It means clearer capital planning. And it means we stop asking, how do we get through this year, and start asking, where will Enfield be in 5 years? Because what we do over the next 3 to 5 years will shape the next 20. And I want to, I was looking through past budgets, obviously, for this. And these two things stuck out to me. Now, first off, buildings and grounds, as I know you understand this, that's where most of our facilities and our grounds are maintained. Those are the people that will, when there's a water issue, or if there's a heating issue, if there's, whatever issues happen within our buildings, or if there's a field issue, those are the people that respond and take care of it. In fiscal year 16, our buildings and grounds budget was $5.7, almost $5.8 million. Our building ground budget, fiscal year 26, is almost $5.6 million. That's 10 years. Now, when I showed this to the assistant town manager, he thought I was crazy. He didn't believe me that those numbers were the numbers. I had to show him those were the numbers. And I think it kind of speaks to the issues that we see in our buildings. There are a lot of differences between fiscal year 16 and fiscal year 26. What's not different is we have the same number of people. What's different is the makeup of those people. And the makeup of the people, all good people, don't get me wrong, but in FY16, we had 2 electricians in the budget. We had plumbers, we had HVAC people. We had a lot of trades people in that budget. And if you look at the FY26 budget, you don't see that. You see one electrician. And what does that mean? That means that, whenever there are light issues, we have one person to fix those light issues, or we have to call a contractor. Sometimes calling a contractor is a better way to go because, they have staff, they can get in there, get it done, which, probably could have been avoided if we had a program to change out lights. And you got one, and again, I'm a little bit ahead of you because I've seen the capital requests, so I know what a lot of these issues are. And for instance, one of the issues is in the high school. And you know how long it's been since those lights have been replaced? They haven't been replaced because we're now coming up on that cycle. And to do it is over $100,000. You know, could we do it in-house? We could, but I have one electrician, and it takes an electrician to do it. And so these are the type of things that, as we look and think, you know, there were choices that were made. And I'm not going to go back against any of the choices that were made because choices are made all the time. What I'm saying, though, is that we're now confronted with the effect of a lot of those choices, that we have to make that choice if we're going to be the stewards of the community or not, and figure out what that is, and not let it be the next council, the next manager, the next generation to deal with it. The other one I wanted to point out is the general transfer to capital. So this is the money that we take out of the general fund and send to capital. And you can see in FY16, there was $3 million. This is budgeted, not actual. FY26, budgeted was 1.7. Now, I'll tell you right now, that number is going to go up because we put 500 and some thousand in pickleball courts. We put another 700,000 in trash vehicles. I think there was one other thing we did, I can't remember. So that number is going to go up. But I'm just talking about when we sit down, you sit down as a council, and you decide what the budget's going to be and what impact that budget is going to have on the tax rate that we charge to our residents. That's the decision that was made, that it was going to be 1.7. I think right now I'm looking at about 18 million worth of capital requests. So there is a very large delta between what we can afford to do and what we need to do. I do want to point out, again, good news here. The fund balances. Again, I took this from the audit. So this is fiscal year 24's audit. And if you go down, and again, I apologize for the size of this. I couldn't, in the amount of time I had to put this together, I couldn't figure out how to get that larger. But if you looked at the unassigned line, which is the second from the bottom, you had the total general, and the next one up is unassigned. You can see back in 2015, our unassigned balance in the general fund was almost $17 million. If you go fast forward to fiscal year June 30th, 2024, well, 2025 actually, you'll see that that fund balance was $30 million. So it had grown by almost $13 million from 2015 to 2024. So we can talk about that later, what that means. But what it tells me is that, you know, there were a number of years where we were collecting more money than what we were spending. And you always want to be on the right side, but you need to balance that because, you know, now this is my personal belief, and you can throw me out after I say this, but my personal belief is, you know, we shouldn't be taxing that much if we're just putting it into the bank, right? And so we got to figure this out. And this is, again, why planning matters. That's why a financial plan is imperative, is that, you know, I could argue a lot of different ways why $30 million is not enough in fund balance. I could do that all day. I could argue why 16 million is not enough, or it's perfect. But we need to start putting together that financial plan that shows us what we should be charging and convince and get the trust of our residents that what we're doing is right. Now, I would love to say that all this is easy, but I'm not. So let me close where I began, with stewardship. Our responsibility is to leave this community greater than we found it. That doesn't require dramatic shifts. It requires discipline. It requires honesty. It requires steady reinvestment. And it requires dealing with issues before they become crises. We have made real progress. We have meaningful opportunities ahead. And we have serious responsibilities to manage. If we stay focused on long-term stability, and if we commit to planning instead of reacting, I'm confident Enfield will not only maintain its footing, but strengthen it. That is the work in front of us, and that is the responsibility we share. Any questions?
Thank you, Matt. I know that's a lot of information for us all to digest. We very much appreciate sort of the overview. It's a precursor to us going into budget season. So this is a lot of really good information, sort of state of the Enfield address, if you will. So really appreciate that. Matt, did you have anything addition in your town manager's report besides this?
Do not.
Okay. So my guess is we may have some questions. My suggestion is we sort of take this information, we can ask questions either at future meetings, and again, this is sort of getting us ready to really have those budget discussions.
This will be carried through the whole budget process.
No doubt, yeah, no doubt. All right, thank you very much. Town attorney report, item 10.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Special committee reports, item 11. Is there any reports of special committees or subcommittees? None. Moving on. Unfinished business, item 12. There is none. 13, new business, consent agenda A. There are 2 items on the consent agenda. One is the resolution authorizing the asset disposal over $6,000, and 2 is the reappointment of Michael Arnone to the Prison Liaison Committee. Any issues or discussion? Sensing none, by a show of hands, I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? I'm sorry. You're right.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. Sensing no issues or discussions, by a show of hands, all in favor of accepting the consent agenda? 10 in favor, none against. B, appointment, town council appointed. 1 is Enfield Beautification Commission. The vacancy exists for the member, and the recommendation is Debbie Kleiman.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second. Go ahead.
Motion to close nominations.
Second.
Motion first and seconded to close nominations.
Yeah.
All in favor of closing nominations? 10 in favor, none against. Any discussion?
Yeah, just
Deputy Mayor, yeah.
Yeah, just one clarification. So on her application, it says her party affiliation is Republican. On our agenda, she is listed as unaffiliated. So I just need to have the.
Upon looking up her party affiliation on the voter registration, she is unaffiliated.
We might
Thank
want to
you.
let her know that. So, I mean, okay, so, fine, that's it.
Any other discussion? All right. I'm sorry, can we do hand vote on this? Perfect. All in favor of Debbie Kleiman? 10 in favor, none against. And Ethics Commission, number 2, a vacancy exists, and recommendation is Desmond Caldwell. A motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
First and second.
Move to close nominations.
Motion made to close nominations and seconded. All in favor of closing nominations? 10 in favor, none against. Any discussion? Sure, Councilor Pisner.
To the mayor, to the town manager. So the Ethics Commission, am I correct? I looked up because I wanted to know what the makeup was of that, because it's been a while. We haven't been able to get anybody on it. What I'm seeing is that right now we don't have anybody on it.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that what I was, because I remember back, we've discussed this.
Yep, we've been trying.
I know. Okay, so no, I'm fine. I mean, I just was a little shocked that we have nobody.
Yep.
Which brings me once again that
we got to get the word out. And so when we do have good people, I think we need to move on them. So.
Thank you. Counselor Hall.
So just a quick comment on that, Matt. I know I had requested like a list to be attached to the agenda. If we don't want to put all our vacancies on the agenda, which I actually like the vacancies on the agenda because I think it informs the public where we need people to serve. So I think it does serve a purpose to put all the vacancies and the various commissions on here. But if we're not going to do that, maybe we can attach it to the agenda just so people can see where we need these people filled in and to be able to serve, because that's obviously a commission we need full.
Yeah.
So, you know, if this is the first one, we're going to need, how many are on this commission? I don't have anything.
Well, I know
telling
it's
me
been
how
given to
many.
us before. We've been given, even in leadership, Carol, we've been
Yeah.
given the list of vacancies
So-
once or twice already.
Right, but that's something that the general public should see. So
I know,
that's
and
my
it's-
point.
Yep, I get that. It's
So,
also on
you
our
know,
website.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
So-
so it just,
Yeah, to that point, and I see Councilwoman Ungary has that. We actually prepared for leadership that list, so this actually looks very similar to what we used to do way back when, and
Which
is
is-
consistent with how it appears on the agenda now when we have someone to fill that. So
Right. So-
that's something that we can do that if council wants. I mean, we can always add that to the agenda when we send out.
We can talk about
I
it in
think-
leadership.
yeah, I think it's nice because it keeps the residents well informed on what's available and what's not. I mean, we can get it in leadership, but if nobody out there understands what's available, it really is helpful, I think, to put it on the council agenda. But that's my only 2 cents. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Desmond Caldwell? Sensing none, by show of hands, all in favor? 10 in favor, none against. Item C, resolution to submit U.S. DOT build planning grant. And be it resolved by the town council that the town manager, Matthew Koppler, or his designee is authorized to submit a request for $3,200,000 to the U.S. Department of Transportation build program for planning work on the corridor between the proposed train station and Palumba Drive, date prepared 2/9/26 by the Economic and Community Development.
So moved.
First and seconded. Thank you. Aaron.
Good evening, everybody. Aaron Markovich, Director, Economic and Community Development. The BUILD program has gone by multiple various names over the years, Tiger, Ice-T, all kinds of things. And basically, it is the massive transportation program through the U.S. Department of Transportation. And the town manager came to me and said, wouldn't it be great if we could get Palumba Drive and Freshwater improved in some ways? I said, yeah, it sounds really great. Started looking at the capital program, and this program is very intense. It requires a lot of documents, a lot of material provided to it, not the least of which is something called a benefit cost analysis. And, you know, I can do something like that on the back of a spreadsheet, but this is way more involved than that. So it requires quite a bit of documentation. So in thinking about it, it made more sense to pull ourselves back a little bit and go after planning dollars instead that would generate all of the various plans that are required, the benefit cost analysis, the community input sessions, the whole smash. And so in thinking about that, we really wanted to broaden out our thought process. So the original issue was, well, hey, wouldn't it be great to fix these couple of local roads? But I think everybody that may be watching that's sitting in this room probably knows that Elm Street is a bit of a problem at times. It is considered a high crash corridor by the Capital Region Council of Governments. And, oh, there's my picture. And so that Elm Street corridor, and then we've added a little bit so that it essentially includes Main Street, North Main, crosses over at Enfield Street, goes under 91, passes the square, soon to be Marketplace, and then wraps up about where Mr. Troiano is working on a project there at the corner of Palumba and Elm. And he already has some plans on paper to do things about it, but then would also include Freshwater and Palumba. And this design program, $3.2 million in request with an $800,000 match, would try to address all of the various deficiencies throughout that corridor, improve walking, bike, getting people from the train station to our central business district. It's a vital corridor. And so I just want to touch, my last item is I do want to touch on the match requirements. We do have previously awarded funds from Joe Courtney and through the Lot SIP program that we would be using potentially as part of that match. We also have staff time and staff support from the Capital Region Council of Governments that we'd be able to use as match. And then we also do have, as Matt mentioned earlier, some of the TIF funds that we could possibly allocate. At this point, the office is not requesting any direct support out of the general fund. This is primarily an application. We may actually be able to reduce that match requirement because a portion of it is within Thompsonville, which if you're in a distressed census district, you don't have to have any match. We have to have some match because it's not all in that district, but we could possibly reduce it even further. So there will have to be more papers done whenever we get there. So at this point, this is simply a request to create a coordinated approach to leverage the upwards of $500 million in public-private investments and make good decisions with Elm Street.
Thank you. So right now, all we are authorizing is to submit the grant, and if that is, like Aaron said, if we get it, which would be great, then we discuss where that match would come from, and hopefully we can use other funding and TIF, and it doesn't come out of the general fund. Any questions? Councilor Hall.
On the breakdown, Aaron, that I'm going through what we have here from you. You rattled off a bunch of funds that we have and coming from either Courtney or the federal government, or we're going to put together. Do you have a breakdown of that somewhere?
I can certainly provide more of a breakdown.
That would be great.
The grant that came through Joe Courtney's office, which really couldn't count as a match because it's federal dollars, but it was about $1 million. The Lot SIP funding is about $1 million. Again, we may not be able to use all of it.
Right.
That will have to be determined once we move into that grant phase if we're awarded to it. But I can give you some of the breakdown of what I've mentioned here.
Thank you.
All set, Carol? All right. Councilor Zanoni?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one quick question. Does our easements change to east and west of 91, for instance? Because I know the road narrows once you go on the eastern side. So if we were engaging in the planning process and we wanted some continuity between the width of those roads, do we have the same easements?
I don't have an answer for you there exactly what the easements are, but I think that would absolutely be part of the planning process. Where we can fit pedestrian access on both sides to make that a functional underpass. It's a pretty dark, dank kind of environment, so we would want to improve that, but that would all be part of that review process.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Sensing no other questions, roll call, please.
Councilor Pisner.
4.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Councilor Thomas.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Zanoni.
4.
Councilor Allegro. 4. Mayor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Crisati. Whoops, sorry. Councilor Hall.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
And Councilor Matthews.
4.
10 in favor, none against.
Thank you, Aaron. Item 13D, resolution to amend the resolution 4472 regarding the Joint Facilities Committee. Whereas on April 18th, 2016, the Town Council adopted resolution number 3602 establishing the Joint Facilities Committee, hereinafter the committee, specifying that the committee would conclude its work upon submitting a final report to the Town Council and Board of Education. And whereas on January 2, 2018, the Town Council adopted resolution 4472 extending the committee's services until such time as the council determined otherwise. And whereas resolution 4472 further, where'd it go? I touched it. Nope. Here we go. Sorry. Thank you. Whereas 4472 further assigned specific duties and responsibilities to the committee, and whereas the town council has designated the committee to serve as the building committee for several voter-approved roof referendum projects, reflecting its continued value in overseeing critical capital improvements. And whereas the town currently maintains multiple committees and subcommittees whose responsibilities overlap and those previously assigned to the committee, resulting in redundancy and potential confusion regarding effective long-term planning. And whereas the Enfield Town Council seeks to reduce this overlap, eliminate confusion, and streamline processes to ensure that the committee's efforts are focused on a successful completion of the roof referendum project. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council hereby modifies the responsibilities of the Joint Facilities Committee to focus solely on the oversight, management, and successfully delivery of the voter-approved roof referendum projects, and reassigns it former planning and facilities-related duties to the appropriate existing committees and town staff in order to promote clear oversight, reduce redundancy, and improve the effectiveness and efficiency of town government. Date prepared 2/10/2026 by Matt Koppler, Town Manager.
So moved.
Second.
Ooh, all right. Any questions or discussion on this? This is something I think that both caucuses have probably discussed, and we're trying to just really, we don't want paths to get in the way, and we want to make sure all the good work continues. Any questions? No? Discussion? All right. Sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Pisner. 4. Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Zanoni.
4.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hall.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
And Counselor Matthews.
4.
10 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Item 13E, resolution to suspend further action on the roof replacement project for Edgar Parkman School. Whereas the Town Council previously authorized the submission of an application to the State of Connecticut for reimbursement related to the roof replacement of project at Edgar Parkman School, consistent with voter-approved roof replacement referendum. And whereas the Town Council also authorized the development of plans and specifications necessary to advance the roof replacement project. And whereas the pre-referendum committee has since recommended that Edgar Parkman School be demolished and replaced by a newly constructed facility rather than rehabilitated, and whereas undertaking the state reimbursed roof replacement project at this time would reduce the level of state funding available for the town for a full demolition and reconstruction project at Edgar Parkman School. And whereas the Town Council finds it prudent to avoid actions that would diminish the town's eligibility for future state reimbursement associated with a potential full school replacement project. And whereas the Town Council recognizes that while demolition and reconstruction planning proceeds, certain areas of existing roof require interim maintenance to ensure safety, protect the building envelope, and allow continued school operations until such time as demolition occurs. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council hereby suspends further action on the state reimbursed roof replacement project for Edgar Parkman School so as to not adversely affect the town's eligibility for future state funding associated with demolition and replacement of the facility. And be it further resolved that the Enfield Town Council directs town staff to develop and implement an interim maintenance plan to address identified areas of concern within Edgar Parkman School roof system to ensure continued safe use of the building until demolition occurs. Date prepared 2/10/2026 by Matt Koppler.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Matt. That was not wordy at all.
I tried.
No, that was great. I don't know if people have questions, or do we want to hear? I know that there is associated with this sort of a plan, but I also understand, and I'm assuming Donald and Eric will tell us that the plan can't be completely delineated until we have the assessment and the inspection of the roof, and then we know exactly what we need to do. So, Gentlemen, if you have anything to add, feel free. If not, I can just have them pepper you with questions.
Yeah, well, let's pepper.
Okay. Counselor.
Donald Nunes, Director of Public Works, by the way.
Thank you.
Good evening. Eric Wykander, Deputy Director.
Thank you. Go ahead, Counselor Pisner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple questions. So we have the grant for Parkman, and if I'm correct, we have up to 2 years after this grant to start the work. Is that correct?
That's correct. So it would be 2 years following May 1st, give or take a day or two.
So we'd have up until 2027?
Correct.
Okay. Where are we right now? Do we have anything done towards that roof? Has there been any kind of architect work done on it? Could we honestly be ready to go?
So currently, the design has been pushed to about 95% by Silver Petroselli. An environmental assessment of the materials of the current roofing structure has been completed, as is required prior to construction. At this point, we would have to prepare bid documents and go out to bid in order to move that project along. The timing, as of right now, would be pretty rough to hit a construction window. School projects, given the fact that there are some hazardous materials in the roofing structure, would have to be done with the students out. This isn't something we could do over a school break. It would have to be over the summer vacations, so that sort of limits our timing.
Okay, so it leads me to my next question.
Sure.
I have gone on the record, I am very much in favor of this school referendum passing, very much in favor of it. However, I always err on the side of caution. If this referendum should not pass, is there any harm in just letting this paperwork or this grant just sit there, and the work that's already been done just sit there, so that if it fails, we're ready to go?
So there's no impact to putting the design on a shelf. The design that we've got prepared currently will be perfectly applicable to this building if it should continue to be used by the town. No issue there. The one potential problem would be the grant commitment timing. So the grant commitment that we have now guarantees a certain percentage of reimbursement up until that date, May 1st, 2027. At that time, we would have to then reapply. If the grant were to expire, we would have to reapply to the state, and we could potentially see a higher or lower reimbursement rate with the new grant commitment. There's also the idea that, the architects from Tecton that are doing the the school referendum project, they've assured me and the Board of Ed that this kind of thing happens all the time, and all we would have to do is apply for a waiver from the state. However, I have never been through that process, so I can't speak to it personally.
I can appreciate what you're saying, and I understand it, but the one sentence in here that I'm questioning is, hereby suspends further action at the state reimbursed roof replacement project. My question is, why can't we just put this here, and in 4 months or 5 months, when this referendum comes out, we wouldn't do anything until, like you said, this summer anyways?
And that's what that language means.
That's what it means. I wanted clarification on that. So that's what it means.
Yes.
Okay, so
What we're going to do is we're just going to suspend work on it. So we're not going to be doing anything additional at this
Okay.
point in time. And then should the referendum for the school modernization not pass, and then you make that decision, okay, let's replace the roof, we could pick it up.
and go.
But I want to emphasize what was said is that the reality probably will be if it doesn't pass in November, there'll be another try. And if there is another try and it doesn't pass then, I don't think we're going to be able to do this project under that grant. We're going to either have to get the waiver, which again, I can't say that we can or can't, or we're going to have to reapply and go through the process again. So I think if we do this, it's knowing that we're not going to get this project done in the 2-year time frame that we have.
All right. Okay, thank you for the explanation. That's what I needed to know, okay? My next question goes to the beginning of this, having a company go out and test the roof. And I had asked this at Joint Facilities. It's always been customary that we put out to bid companies to come in and give us their expertise. And I know, with all respect, you have a company that you've worked with that you really like, and they've proven to be good, but why aren't we looking at other companies to go out and do this moisture testing, and why are we just going with the first one?
It's not our direction to go with the first one. That decision has yet to be made. This is a great example of a proposal. As far as the procurement is concerned, we're perfectly within state compliance by using these folks off of a purchasing consortium contract. We do it with all sorts of services around town every day. They're pre-procured, so they're competitively procured, meeting all the requirements of the state. This one happens to be the Massachusetts Higher Education Consortium. It's a contract that we use in many departments all over town. I'm not married to this proposal. I have had good luck with this company in the past, and they were my first choice when I knew I needed data quickly to present to the council.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Councilor Hall.
So just along the lines that Marie was asking, so if the referendum fails in November, we know there's a problem with the roof. Obviously, the roof was the last to be done out of all our elementary schools that were on the roof referendum, right? This is the last one? Or is there another roof that we haven't done?
Yes, there are several roofs that have not been completed from the referendum.
Okay, how many?
I believe on the table right now is Stowe, Enfield Street School, Alcorn, Prudence Crandall, Parkman, the Annex.
Okay, so by removing this, we know this one has active problems because we've heard about them.
Well, I would like to just be clear, and I'm sorry to interrupt, Council.
Yep.
I want to say that this roof in particular is one of the better condition roofs that we have in our
Okay.
portfolio.
So other roofs are leaking.
Yes, other roofs are in significantly worse condition than Parkman's roof.
Okay, so if the modernization plan fails in referendum, where are you as far as moving forward with these other roof repairs? And I know we're talking about Parkman, which I can keep my comments to Parkman, but what is the plan on getting us through with a leaking roof?
Well, with regards to the Prudence Crandall School, it's slated for a similar fate as Parkman. So my plan would be to apply the same strategies that you're seeing here to Prudence Crandall. We would do a moisture survey. Based on that, we'd come up with a 5-year plan that would get us to the potential referendum end date. And the others, the annex, the fate of that building is sort of in the balance. I can't comment on that. I don't have a resolution currently to seek a design for that roof replacement. I do have a resolution to seek a design for the Stowe roof, and that's going to be my priority. That'll be a full replacement with state reimbursement as much as possible. We'll be moving ahead with that based on the direction from the joint facilities.
So you're going to go out for bid if this doesn't pass in November for any sort of roof replacements or repairs to get us through whatever we need to get through before we place a second referendum out there, correct? I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, I would
No,
love...
there's a schedule for the referendum that's done through joint facilities.
Okay.
So there's a schedule. So it's Parkman, sorry to interrupt, Parkman was on the schedule.
Okay.
And we didn't do it specifically because pre-referendum and school modernization was in full force trying to figure out what roofs are doing. Fast forward, then the prior council decided, this past year or so, the prior council decided they were going to do it. So there are other roofs on that schedule, if you will, that are on the priority schedule, and then a secondary schedule, I believe, an alternative schedule if there was funding still available. So I believe we're in the time frame for Annex. Correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, but I think we're in the time frame for Annex, Enfield Street, Parkman, Stowe, and Alcorn are all sort of in the next, within last year and the year before and the next year. So you can't go out to bid on all of them all at the same time. I mean, you're going to need to do one or two at a time, but.
So,
That's accurate.
Okay.
so I guess that leads me to another question. Why was Parkman looked to be done if there are other roofs that are in worse condition?
That's an excellent question. I can only base my direction off of what the council provided, and we were given direction through resolution to proceed with those 3 design projects, Stowe, Crandall, and Parkman, and the direction was Parkman's first.
Okay.
But you're right, the condition of Parkman would tend to put it towards the end, and I think that joint facilities would agree to that.
Okay. So my other question is probably more through the mayor to Matt. The reimbursements from the state with the payback, let's just for argument's sake say Parkman were to move forward, the roof was done, the reimbursement from the state starts like when? So is it when the school project is completed, or is it when the building comes down? Because the reason I'm asking is twofold. How long are the roof projects bonded out for? Is it 10 years, or is it a 15-year bond?
I'm not sure on that.
Okay.
It could be a 20-year bond.
For a roof?
Yeah.
I would be surprised if it was 20.
Well, I know that it was, again, not to interrupt, but it was discussed during joint facilities, and I know Maria's been on joint facilities forever, so she probably has some of this information as well. But Erica, you may have that. Eric, you may have that information as well. I think
so it's a 20-year bond. Or at least the reimbursement is going to look at the year after the completion plus 20 years.
Okay, so
Well, but that's not necessarily tied to the bond. I think that's the state statute for the reimbursement, that you have to wait 20 years.
No, it's different. It's different with each project.
Is it?
Yeah, it's different. It depends on the project amount.
Say the price.
Yeah, it does. It's based on the project size.
Gotcha.
So I guess my question is, if I'm worried about us getting stuck with leaking roofs if this referendum fails, and then we're behind the 8 ball and we're sitting here in 2 years looking at the same leaking roofs and the same problem, right? So I'm just looking for a solution that we're not going to lose this reimbursement from the state. And if the referendum fails, we have a plan in place to move these quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's my only hesitation.
Yeah.
Is you and I both know with huge referendums, the first go around is not so great. So it's usually second or third go at the apple that we get them passed. So I'm just very concerned with shelving this again because it seems like that's what happened with all the previous councils, and here we are with leaking roofs.
And I think at least in this one in particular, because as was said, it's not as bad as some of the other ones.
Yeah.
That what DPW is looking to do will be able to, give us that 5 to 7 year time frame before we really get into a serious situation. I mean, if what they're talking about doing works, we'll identify those areas that are most likely to fail in a grand way, and we'll be going out there and taking proactive action to fix those. Where in the past, we didn't do that, and we waited until the roof told us that it needed to be replaced, right?
Right.
And so I think that's the only difference here, is that we'll be a little bit more proactive in what we're doing. So we'll hopefully get those taken care of before they become a serious issue. Now, if you're talking about the other roofs, that's a different issue. Again, I think, some of those that are on the list we know are going to be later projects than earlier. I think, we need to look at that and really figure that out if it makes sense or not to move forward with those. Because, anything longer than 7 years under construction would be very concerning.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, so hopefully this is the solution that you were looking for. So, okay. Counselor Zanoni, did you have anything? I saw your hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just some brief comments. So first, I want to thank both of you. We had the opportunity to see the full proposed opportunities for the roof replacement options. I'm incredibly impressed with the work that has come forward and how you want to approach it. And I'll just say this, I think it's important for public clarity, and I know it's in the resolution. A building's being knocked down, and we're proposing to spend millions of dollars to fix it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think, to Councilor Hall's point, just to be very blunt, I think the decision to put Parkman as a priority wasn't necessarily the judgment of town staff, what I was gathering. It was the opinion of the council at the time. I don't think it necessarily was correlating to what town staff had recommended be accomplished there. And I know that during the first joint facilities meeting, myself, as well as other members of the committee, saw this roof project, building demolished, and we said, we need to put the brakes and have a deeper conversation about that. And I think we also recognize that the reactive maintenance, and I think you had noticed that, it's not effective. And I think this provides us an option to try this plan out and see how we can ultimately do this for other roofs as well in the future, so that we aren't having these issues routinely happen in our other facilities. I think I have faith in our 3 members that we send to Hartford, that you can all work hard to ensure, if there are any issues with our grant reimbursement, that could happen. Though I am going to be optimistic and hope that we don't come down that path. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All right, I'm sensing no more discussion. Thank you, gentlemen. Roll call, please.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Zanoni.
4.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hall.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
And Counselor Matthews.
4.
10 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Item 13F, resolution approving the settlement agreement for 117 North Street. Resolved that the Enfield Town Council hereby approves the settlement agreement in the following cases: Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Enfield et al. Versus Joseph C. LaCory et al., docket number LND HDD CV 19-611-8652-S, and Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agencies of the Town of Enfield et al. Versus Joseph LaCory et al., docket number LND HDD-CV 19-611-8659-S, date prepared 2/6/2026, prepared by Office of the Town Attorney.
So moved.
Second.
First and seconded. I know we discussed this prior in executive session. Any further discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary. 4. Counselor Zanoni.
4.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hall.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
And Counselor Matthews.
4.
10 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Item 13G, resolution making recommendations for the Charter Revision Commission to consider and setting time frame for submission of the draft report by the Charter Revision Commission. Whereas the Enfield Town Council initiated the charter revision process at the February 2nd, 2026 meeting, and whereas the Enfield Town Council must set a date for the charter revision to submit its draft report to the Enfield Town Clerk and provide suggestions for the Charter Revision Commission to consider. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council, 1, charges the Charter Revision Commission to review the charter of the Town of Enfield and make recommendations it deems appropriate, and 2, the town manager is instructed to transmit to the Charter Revision Commission all individual suggestions made by the town council members for the commission's review of the charter, and 3, specifies that the Charter Revision Commission will submit a draft report to Enfield Town Clerk by June 1, 2026, date prepared 2/10/26 by the Town Manager's Office.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? This provides a time frame. All right. Sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Pisner. 4. Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Zanoni.
4.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hall.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
And Counselor Matthews.
4.
10 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Item 13H, resolution adopting a policy on settlement of liability and property damage claims.
Madam Mayor, I'll move to waive the reading if you just want to
Oh,
summarize since we
thank
discussed.
you. I can put my cough drop back in my mouth. Thank you. The motion was made. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of waiving the reading? By a show of hands, I very much appreciate you. 10 in favor. I would have taken that at a couple of before that. No, I appreciate it. Just to summarize, this is in allowing our town manager to settle property claims under the amount of $5,000 without coming to the town council for approval. I don't know, Matt, if you want to just do a really brief overview of it.
Well, I was going to say, and I can do that, I was just going to say that it's not just me, it'll be me in consultation with the town attorney.
Yes, I apologize. You're correct.
And that, this is kind of very specifically for, those policies that have the consent to settle clause. So there's only one line we have right now that would fall into, and that's our law enforcement liability insurance. So all the other claims will still be going the ways that they have been handled in the past.
So if there is a consent to settle
Yes.
clause, then he is allowed to do that under $5,000. Any questions? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Pisner. 4. Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Zanoni.
4.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hall.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
And Counselor Matthews.
4.
10 in favor, none against.
Item 14 on the agenda, items for discussion, there is none. 15 on the agenda, any other business proper to come before said meeting? There is none. 16, public communications. Anyone in the audience wish to address the council at this time? Okay. 17, councilor communications. Any communications? Councilor Matthews.
Through the mayor to the town manager, you have outlined the importance of comprehensive multi-year financial planning, which is something that I was passionate about and one of the reasons why I ran for council. So I was happy to see this report, which was very succinct in what I believe we're looking to for the future of this town. So just 2 questions. I've got one and then a follow-up, which is if we do not move forward with this kind of structured investment, what will Enfield realistically look like in 5 to 10 years? If you could use your imagination.
I'd rather not.
That's a very good answer. So my follow-up would be, can you think of maybe service reductions that would go first?
Do you mean, what do you
As
mean?
in, for the departments that we have, which
Yeah.
ones, what do you see suffering the most? Like, do you see our roads suffering? Do you see, services like libraries, like social services? Are we going to have to cut hours? Are we cutting staff? Like, where do you see the degradation? Where does it start?
Well, it'll start up there during budget processes. It'll start in your meetings with the Board of Education, because that is the largest single expenditure you have, is education. It will start by people coming here complaining about roads, how long it takes to get a building permit, blight. Eventually, it'll start getting to core services, police, EMS, those type of things that will be last to see any significant injury in that. But, it's going to start with you, where, you'll see it right there. And that's, I think, historically, the battles, the biggest single battle historically the town of Enfield has is in budget with the Board of Education, right? That's always, it's always there. And a lot of, and I sort of left that out in my presentation intentionally, because I think as part of that financial plan, we have to get the schools to buy into that concept as well, right? Because if we don't get them on board with what we have to do together, we're never going to get there. And that's going to be the challenge. I think there's hope, though. I think the superintendent of schools is forward thinking and probably more than I am, tied into fiscal planning and sees the benefit of it. But it's really getting the Board of Education on board with that concept, and that concept is not an easy one, because you have to make hard choices. You can't just sit there and say, "Hey, I want," and I get. And all of this is going to be first the hard parts, right? You have to not do some of the things you want to do in the beginning to be able to do the things you need to do later on. But again, we need to have those conversations, and that's what the budget process is about, is to talk about levels of service. And I'll guarantee you what will end up coming, most likely come out of that, is that we're going to adopt a budget where nobody's satisfied with, but there is a desire to move forward with actually doing the hard work of determining what service levels we should be offering to the residents and what service levels the residents want from us, and saying, this is what makes sense. If you want to keep your tax rate at X, this is what we can do. If you're willing to go to X plus, here's what we can do. If you want to go to X minus, here's what we're not going to do. And there may be things that we don't need to do, and the public doesn't want us to do. But we have to do the work to figure that out.
Sure. And following up, because I understand that most of us are under financial constraints, but we have to consider what kind of town we want to live in. So in order to get to that X plus, and definitely making sure that we're communicating this to the residents very well throughout the budget process, how do we get that plus without burdening our taxpayers? And when I say taxpayers, I mean constituents. I don't mean corporations, which I believe should be shouldering most of that. So besides raising the property values in Thompsonville, I would just love to see us get very creative with how we can improve and maintain first, and then improve the services in our town, while being very mindful that that burden not be on our constituents. You got to figure out a creative way to do that, and that's just something that I think that we're all kind of in agreement with, that we need to be focusing on first and foremost.
With all due respect,
Of course.
I want to say, if you remember back to that one slide that had the buildings and grounds before and now, y'all have been very creative.
I can tell, absolutely.
Right? There's probably nowhere that I could point to that shows
That was a shocking slide.
that small of growth in a department that services over 1 million square foot.
And it's
property.
not fair to our workers, and it's not fair to our town.
But I think that shows that that people have done a lot of things to keep buildings open.
Right. And I commend all the staff for absolutely doing that. I know when you say, you have the 1.7 million number according to the 18 million that you really need. I mean, and I don't know what wants are in that need, but, I just want to just be very cognizant of the fact that I want the best for this town. I was born and raised here, and I want to see all of the things and, get all the needs definitely out first. But I can't wait to have these conversations about how to be extremely creative as you continue to be and the way to do this. That's all I had on that.
Thank you. Councilor Pisner?
So to the mayor, to our town clerk. So Sheila, I don't want to put you on the spot, but at the last meeting, Councilor Hall made a motion to add something to this coming agenda, and I had seconded it. And there was some discussion as to how many votes it would take, and I did go out and do a little research, and I couldn't find the answer. Were you able to find that answer out for us? How many votes it would take to put something on the next agenda?
Yes, what I found in our rules of procedure is that it's 2 votes for councilors to request a special meeting. However, it is leadership that decides to put items on the agenda.
Okay,
There isn't a 2-councilor vote to add an
Okay.
item onto the agenda.
All right. Okay, because I bring it up again, and I think tonight is a great time to bring it up, is we have a very qualified person who we wanted to put on the agenda for the BAA. And I was shocked today to find out we have nobody on our ethics. We're out here telling the public, please come forward, and we have someone who's come forward who wants to continue this job, and it's time sensitive because we're going to start soon. Why we can't get him reappointed just really baffles me. So I just want it on the record that we have somebody and we're not putting him forward.
Thank you. Councilor Hall, did you have anything else?
So just a couple of comments, and they go more to what was discussed at the beginning of the meeting and the procedures for replacing town attorney. I don't think any of us, I know I can speak for our caucus, have no question as to the process of bringing in a new town attorney. And after each November, there is a election, and election, as we've heard many times, have consequences. So the majority party obviously gets to sit and make a lot of decisions, but there are procedures in place that need to be followed. So with all due respect, those procedures, in my humble opinion, weren't followed, and you and I will disagree on this. And the other issue I have is if I do want to ask questions on the floor, I will ask them. I won't be told where to ask my questions. That is my right as a sitting councilor, and I won't be told where those questions can be asked. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Nobody told you not to. I said if you have questions you actually want answers to, a prepared answer
I
is
know where
going
I
to
can
give you
ask
those
my
answers.
questions,
But that's
Gina.
fine.
I will
And you and I
ask
will
them.
absolutely disagree on the procedure. And I don't even think they were your questions. I think they were somebody else's. But
They were
Deputy
my
Mayor
questions,
Santinella.
and they were my
you.
constituent questions. So I really take offense at your comment. So, all right, rude and really a low blow, Gina. You need to really watch yourself.
Oh, thank you, Carol.
So I would just like to make this comment. 2 years ago, when I was the incoming minority leader, I received a phone call that of the 2 employees that the town council hires, one was told to resign or they were going to be publicly humiliated in this chamber. And the other one was told that they no longer had a job and was going to be replaced. With no discussion with me, and if former Mayor Crissati was here, he would affirm that no one discussed that with him. That was the procedure 2 years ago. We did not engage in anything even close to that. And everything that we did was done here publicly. And I do want to say through the mayor to the assistant town manager, I'm not certain of this, but I believe we had on one of our agendas, I could be wrong, that we were going to issue an RFP for a town attorney. And the only reason I remember this is because Mr. Young came and made a comment during public communications. I see you're looking for a new town attorney. You don't need to do that. We have a perfectly good one. And I believe that he did that because we had on the agenda that we were going to issue that RFP. I could be thinking about that differently, but I believe that that happened before we issued the RFP. But again, that could be my recollection. After what? I'm sorry, first of all, I have the floor, so if you'd like to ask a question, would you like to ask a question? Because I'm happy to answer them.
Nope,
Because what you're doing right now, talk about being rude, is really rude.
I will wait.
Okay, I don't appreciate that.
I was commenting to Marie.
You were
not
talking loud
you.
enough that I could hear you, and that is rude. I don't do that to you, so
Go ahead.
please.
Go ahead.
Okay? So I just would like to say that, and, you know, I'm very pleased with the attorney that we have, and I think that we did everything appropriately in the way that we handled it with respect to the outgoing party to make sure that their integrity and they were treated with dignity and respect without sitting here and going through a whole host of reasons why in a public forum, which we could very well have done, but we chose not to do that because that would not have been appropriate. And frankly, we would have been taken to task for doing that, and it wasn't necessary. So we chose to forgo that. And what did we get? A squad of people coming in here, cameras blaring, threatening us, trying to intimidate us. We're not going to deal with that. We're just not dealing with that. You didn't get the job. I haven't gotten jobs. I don't go protest the company that didn't hire me. You didn't get the job. You move on. Seems to be we're going to just turn this into a circus. Not going to just let that happen. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anything else?
All due respect, John, I just want to go back to what you said when you were the minority lead. I was in that room, and the former mayor was called by the current mayor and said, please come to the meeting, and he told, okay, and honestly and truly, the employee that was let go, I believe everybody in Enfield wanted it because there were signs asking us.
can't
But
say
that's
that.
another question.
You can't say that.
But as far as the other one, he resigned. So I understand it a little differently. There was nothing behind closed doors. It happened in the office, and the former mayor was invited to that.
Thank you. Councilor Hall.
So in response, John, you are remembering correctly, the RFP was on our agenda, but it was after the fact. That was the point I was trying to make. The RFP had already gone out. And then when it came to the council to vote, it was after the RFP had gone out. So that was the only correction I was trying to make on your statement. So.
Sorry, I did not understand that.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Yeah, that's what I was
I'm
saying.
sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
You took his all in favor. 10 in favor, none against.